Hello, thanks for joining us for ENCORE's film show. Coming up, Bertrand Bonello's Saint Laurent explores the life of the late French fashion designer. The godfather of soul was soulless, according to a new biopic. Get On Up tells how James Brown gave everything to his audience, but was cruel and domineering behind the scenes. And it's been called a mix of Hobbes, Chekhov and the Bible, the tragic drama of corruption and intimidation in contemporary Russia, Leviathan. And for all that, we're joined by France 24's film critic, the lovely Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Yves.
Well, first, we're going to talk about the French biopic on Yves Saint Laurent. It's out in France this week. In a moment, we'll get Lisa's take, but first, France 24 went to meet the director, Bertrand Bonello, and the actor, Gaspard Ulliel, to talk about the pressure of playing this icon.
Yves bientôt sera le seul à rayonner.
Tu peux te plaindre, mais tu habilles la planète, mon cher.
Yes, there is pressure. It's omnipresent. It's even a sense of fear that's there from the beginning to the end, even during filming. But I would say it's a good thing. Otherwise, it would be worrying. Just as we see Saint Laurent full of doubt at each step of the creation process, I think it's the same for any artist. We're in a state of permanent doubt, and that fear is useful. It's a good sign. It means we're getting ready to transcend something.
The best thing about Gaspard is that I think we really had the same vision for the character. We both wanted to avoid the same things. After having seen him and others, it became clear that he would be the perfect incarnation of what I was looking for. Not something full of restrictions and hard work. He really brought a contemporary element to the character.
There we go, Gaspard Ulliel, hunk extraordinaire, playing an iconic gay man. That used to be a big no-no for actors, didn't it, Lisa? I'm happy to say that doesn't seem to be the case now.
No, but it's absolutely true. I mean, in my lifetime, not that long ago, it was considered pretty much career suicide for an actor to play an identifiably homosexual character. And in this movie, you have three notoriously heterosexual actors, Gaspard Ulliel, Jeremy Renier, and Louis Garrel, all sort of tripping over each other to play these famous gay men. And I have to say that Ulliel pretty much has mastered that strange delivery that the real Saint Laurent had, and his gestures and his mannerisms.
And Saint Laurent is France's submission for the Oscars. We don't know if it's actually going to make it to the Oscars, but would it get your prize?
Well, you know, there are two films about Yves Saint Laurent out in France this year. The other one would have been eligible. I like both of them. I think that the performances here are very interesting. This one is 37 or 47 maybe minutes longer than the other one, so I'm not sure the Academy voters are going to go for it, but they're both worth seeing.
OK, well, now to another biopic, this time about James Brown's life and career, produced by Mick Jagger. Before we review it, Haxi Meyer's Belkin has more.
There's no shortage of similarities between the Rolling Stone and his idol. Rhythm, stage presence, and legions of adoring fans. So it's no surprise that Mick Jagger has co-produced a cinematic homage to the man who is best known as the godfather of soul, James Brown.
Il connaît exactement qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire à un certain moment pour faire les ballades ou faire les chansons très vite. Alors il contrôle le public. Et ça, je suis très impressionné par ça.
It's the story of a boy.
One day, everybody gonna know your name.
Who endures poverty, racism, and prison in the American South.
James Brown.
1, 2, 3, 4. Before finding a way out through music. First gospel, then soul, and funk. But what made the self-proclaimed sex machine stand out from the crowd? Not just that voice, but also for the actor who plays him, ambition.
I think his genius came from that same pain. His genius came from the fact that he didn't want to go backwards. Part of what he was hearing in his music came from pain and from pleasure and from joy and love.
But James Brown also had a darker side. His violence against women, his tyrannical treatment of fellow musicians.
What's wrong, Nesselson? You can't play that like you told us. It doesn't work musically. It doesn't sound good.
And the moments of madness that led him to prison. Nonetheless, he remains an icon.
He's definitely a role model for rappers, people who've built an empire like Jay-Z, for example. James Brown was one of the first black Americans to really take control of his own career, and not only as far as his music was concerned.
Recording almost 900 songs over 60 years, James Brown certainly earned his name as the hardest working man in show business.
There we go, Lisa. Chadwick Boseman in the starring role as James Brown. Does he pull it off?
I'm going to show off and use a French expression. It's a tour de force. The guy is incredible. He becomes James Brown. He lip-synced all of the songs magnificently, even in close-up, as you could see in that clip. He's got the moves down, the fabulous splits, the energy, and he portrays him at different moments in his life, from a younger man to later on in his career. It's an exceptionally fine performance.
And some reviews say James Brown has a very harsh behind-the-scenes side, and that comes across a lot in the film. Do we still like him at the end of the film?
Like him? Well, I came away admiring him like crazy. His talent, his drive, his desire for perfection, his showmanship, and his demands on himself and others. He doesn't ask any other people to do anything he wasn't asking himself to do. It's a real rags to riches tale. It's an incredibly American story. In the opening scene, he tells a group of people who are kind of terrorized because he seems nuts and is holding a rifle and fires it into the ceiling, that any music they listen to, there's a little bit of him in it. And he's bragging, but you could argue that that's actually true. I'm all for kindness and good manners under all circumstances, but in fact, it's the music that we have. And if he was nasty to people, well, that's in the past.
Okay, well, now to a film called Leviathan. One review I saw described it as a new Russian masterpiece. Would you agree?
Wow. Well, for a masterpiece, we have to let the test of time go along for a while. But right now, this is a magnificent film, incredibly worth seeing. A lot of people thought that it might win the Palme d'Or, the top award at Cannes. As it is, it got the Screenplay Prize, which is nothing to sniff at. I think it's a phenomenal portrait of what's going on in Russia right now, disguised as a family drama. Let's take a look.
Вы сейчас здесь не имеете права здесь находиться. Решение суда еще в силу не вступило.
У тебя никогда никаких прав не было! Нет и не будет!
Ну понятно же, что сука для себя местечко освобождает.
Всякая власть от Бога. Пока Богу угодно, беспокоиться тебе. А вот угодно ему.
Где твой Бог милосердный? На земле нет подобного.
There we go. Leviathan is the director's fourth film. I'm going to let you pronounce his name. But he's being very brave this time.
I'm just going to refer to him as the director we're speaking about because his name is a little tricky and I wouldn't want to massacre it the way his family is getting treated. This is a man and his wife and son who live in that magnificent house by the water. And using eminent domain, the government says, nope, we need this space for something else. And you can, because it's so menacing and so anguish-producing, you can very easily put yourself in their place and say, when the government and even the church are against you, do you stand up for your rights or do you just step aside and say, I lost? So this is taking place in Vladimir Putin's Russia. And oddly enough, this is kind of jaw-dropping, the Russian government invested in the film, even though it's very critical.
Okay, impressive. Well, now to a horror film that creeps me out just thinking about it, Rosemary's Baby. It's been restored and is being re-released. For those of us with small babies at home, I'm not sure it would be our chosen fodder for the evening, but what would you say?
I would say that this really is a modern classic. It was made in 1968. It has aged really, really well because it's truly sinister, and that thing that creeped you out and that makes you reluctant to see it again is very much alive and well. It's Mia Farrow plays a young woman who her husband, played by John Cassavetes, is an actor. They're in New York. He's not getting so many jobs. She's pregnant. They have some weird neighbors who, well, just some weird neighbors, very memorably weird. And it turns out that in this case, the expression being in league with the devil isn't just an expression. Polanski has taken Ira Levin's novel and translated it to the screen unbelievably well. And it was shot in the Dakota, which in another 12 years would be notorious for the site where John Lennon was shot. But here it's just a fabulous backdrop to some very creepy goings-on.
Okay, well, talking about aging well or not, depending how you see it, Brigitte Bardot is 80 this week. A word on the French actress.
Brigitte Bardot, synonymous with beauty and grace, and she started out to be a ballerina, and she actually turned out to be a rather gifted actress. If memory serves, at one point she was considered the most lucrative export for the nation of France. So that might be why everybody sort of still knows what the name Brigitte Bardot signifies, but shapely, graceful, that ballerina poise. I can't believe she's 80.
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much. As one of the world's greatest beauties turns 80, we're going to leave you with some images of her through the years. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Alors voilà, Clyde a une petite amie. Elle est belle et son prénom c'est... Bonnie.
Focus. Why do foreigners come to Paris? When they do, why do they stay and how do they live? To find out, our reporters met with foreign communities living in Paris. Culture, food specialities, lifestyle and more. Africans, Indians, Chinese and North Africans tell us their Paris story and Parisian life.
Focus on France 24 and France24.com.